Norman, welcome to
Good to be here.
to Cambridge. You've been out and about first thing this morning, so I see from Twitter.
Yeah.
What's been the reaction on the doorstep?
Very positive. I think people recognising that Julian is worth keeping. He's a very good colleague of mine and a friend, and I think the people that I talk to, of course, weekday morning, quite a lot of people out, but the people I talked to, people were very positive about him and the work he's done here. I think there has been quite a seismic shift, actually. I think mental health time has come, actually. I think the Time to Change campaign has been a very powerful vehicle to challenge that stigma that mental health always experienced. But I think also there's a sort of growing recognition that you can't possibly tolerate unequal treatment for people with mental ill health problems. I mean, the idea that if you have suspected cancer, you will see a specialist within 2 weeks of referral by your GP. But if you're a teenager who suffers the first episode of psychosis, you have no right at all. It's intolerable, and it's a discrimination at the heart of the NHS. And I've tried to use my role as minister to sort of champion mental health as best I can, to proselytise for it. So introducing the first ever waiting time standard for early intervention in psychosis, I think, is quite a significant breakthrough. And my mission and my vision is that over the next 5 years we introduce comprehensive standards so that people with mental ill health have exactly the same right to access timely treatment as anyone else. Well, first of all, I guess I would conclude that the sort of passionate advocates on either side of this debate are probably both misplaced. Ultimately, it doesn't actually fundamentally change the way the NHS works. I've never been a great passionate advocate of this legislation, and I actually spoke out during the pause that we had in its passage through Parliament, calling for changes, and we achieved some important changes, particularly getting the principle of integrated care into legislation for the first time. I think it's been a very important principle. I think the idea, when you ask about what's worked well, what hasn't, I think the idea of clinicians being more closely involved in the commissioning of care is a good principle. I think also the placing of public health in local authorities is a sensible move, because often the big influences of public health are way beyond the NHS in terms of housing, education, and so on. And I think the fact that we now have enshrined in legislation a duty to promote the reduction of health inequalities is a positive thing. The trouble, of course, with any change is that it takes time for a new system to bed down, and we need to just get on with making the system work more effectively. And my overall view as a liberal is that we've tested to destruction this idea of imposed top-down change. And I think we've tested that to destruction, and we need now to change our approach so that we encourage innovation and change at a local level. That's what I've tried to do with my pioneers in integrated care, where the role of the centre is to remove barriers, not to impose change. So I think the idea that health organisations have always looked upwards to Whitehall rather than outwards to their communities is wrong and needs to change. I think actually that the Health and Social Care Act has incrementally improved accountability, and that you now have these health and wellbeing boards, which has a democratic element to it. And it brings the local authority into play for the first time in developing a health strategy locally, and I think that's a positive thing. Our approach with health and care is to ensure that you completely bring together the health and care system in a locality, a pooled budget for health and care by 2018, and at the national level, a department for health and care. It's ridiculous that I've been responsible for policy in care, but the money flows through your old department. That makes no sense at all. To get proper accountability, the money's got to be aligned with policy responsibility, so that has to change. But I think the idea of having a single pool budget but leaving it to a local area to determine how that design works with single commissioning between the local authority and the NHS, I think that's the best approach. And I think similarly with police, I mean there's no easy solution to achieve the perfect sense of accountability, but we have a problem with the Conservative approach to police and crime commissioners, and we don't think ultimately that that's the best approach. Well, I speak from my own personal perspective here, and I think we've got to facilitate a rationalisation of local government where there is a local will for this to happen. And I think of my own county of Norfolk, where you have 7 district councils, a county council, a Broads authority. This is a ridiculously top-heavy form of local administration, and I think we should try and take control of our own destiny, whether it's in Cambridge or in Norfolk. And the idea of the locality having more control, the city deal that Julian has done a lot to promote and secure for Cambridge is a good case in point, where this is decentralising power from the centre to the locality, and the idea of bringing power closer to people is at the heart of what Liberal Democrats are about.
Lovely. Thank you very much.
It's a pleasure.